All right, everybody. This is the William Quigley Insider. William Quigley, who is our local resident billionaire, whatever after billion is trillion. He'll be there one day probably. He is hanging out with us, and he gives us his insight on what's going on from everything from geopolitics to fintech, finance, and of course, crypto. Today's a special one because I have twisted his arm to give us some insight of what it takes to just do some, let's go with crypto 101, but actually do some investing. So I asked you to go get a Coinbase account. If you already have some type of account that allows you to do that, great. It could be Abra or whatever. And William's going to give us some insight. Before we go there, let's give it up for William Quigley. William! Hey, buddy.
Hey.
All right. That's enthusiastic. William, real quick. Interesting to see, and I'm using current news to establish kind of a direction. And that is, do you remember 2 weeks ago in the Ozarks, which is, a big vacation location during Memorial Weekend, there was this picture of hundreds of people in a pool, all hanging out. One person there right after had COVID. He tested positive.
I remember.
No one has tested positive from that hangout.
Nope.
So
and no one's going to, or few will. I mean, I don't know how all you guys feel at that point, but by the way, I have a bunch of tests, right? The IgG, IgM tests. Those are the tests that tell you if you, whether you have the antibody, and then if you do have the antibody, is it less than 14 days old, and therefore you're contagious, right? So, I don't know, 25 people or so have taken them so far, random people. Friends of mine, employees. Dude, I don't think I'm ever going to find someone who's positive. Like, I just don't see it, It's like, if it was going to happen here, I think it would have happened.
Kind of reminds me of somebody that's an Amway diamond dealer. Yeah, I've never met one, but all my friends have a friend that's one of them. It's kind of like COVID.
Yeah, it feels a little bit like that. But by the way, I do know someone now, one removed from my friend. His mom died. But his mom was in her 80s and she was in the hospital for all kinds of problems, one lung removed, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? So she got COVID, but I mean, I think her days were numbered. So I'm skeptical, guys. I'm skeptical that we need to keep any kind of lockdown.
And maybe right after the election, it'll just go away. What? It's gone.
I really think that it's, look, I mean, if it was going to happen, right, we would have seen it by now. So I don't know if did you see what's going on with, there was a guy, I wish I had the images, but he recorded going to China this week. So leaving LAX and flying into Beijing, except you don't fly into Beijing, you fly into a neighboring airport, which is better able to handle the COVID. Mm-hmm. Anyway, I consider myself a hardy international traveler, but not on a bet would I do what that guy did.
Why is that?
Well, I mean, he goes from the beginning. First, it took like 2 hours to get on the plane and board from the time they told him to get on the plane and board. Second, and this is something I think we all were wondered about. Well, we know the answer. Every single goddamn seat was filled, including the middle seats. Wow. Every single seat. And this guy asked people, so why are you here? Man, I got shit to do. I got business to run. It's like, of course. And every 2 or 3 hours, they were testing people. They were doing the test that I have, blood prick tests. They had the last 3 or 4 rows of the plane for anyone who they thought might get COVID. At the end of the flight, there were 20 people they thought might have COVID or felt like they had a fever. When they landed at this airport, they were met with the hazmat team, and 25 people got off and were taken in ambulances somewhere. I don't know where. And then everybody else was taken in these hazmat trucks to designated hotels for 14 days.
Oh, quarantined.
And tested like every 3 or 4 days. Oh, by the way, when they landed, it's one thing to do the pinprick test, which I don't like blood, so I don't like them. Dude, they do the pinprick and the nasal thing. Now, if you guys haven't seen this, it's a Q-tip about 10 inches long that goes way into your nasal cavity. And I've seen soldiers like go like this when they're having it done. I'm telling you, you wouldn't do that trip. It was for if we were working for a company and they wanted you to go to freaking China. So I'd say, guys, as far as going to China goes, you're braver than me if you're willing to do that.
Well, what's your thought regarding the both sides, U.S. and the United States, chopping off flights between? So nothing coming in from China to the United States and nothing coming into China, or vice versa. China won't let any American flights land there either. That's a halt, isn't it?
Oh, maybe not an American flight, but it was a flight from LAX.
That's fascinating to see that.
And they Beijing, I think what the guy said, I not positive, but I think what he said is that airport they landed at had 14 flights, international flights that day. There must be 200 normally, right? Or 300. So it's but it made me say, wow, if people would go through that, it's going to be no problem. And as some of you guys have probably seen, I mean, like we've been talking about, what stocks, the only stocks I've ever made money in, beaten down stocks. So I think Warren Buffett wishes he hadn't sold his airline stocks. They're flying high right now. I mean, they're still way down, but they've popped. And Las Vegas, which I think opened a few days ago, they're predicting that August may be the most busy month in Vegas history.
What?
So guys, one thing, and I think I had said this again and again, all these people saying to us over the last couple months, we'll never be the same. Nothing will ever be back to normal, you know, blah, blah, blah. I thought it was bullshit, and it's bullshit. So Vegas is going to be jam-packed. Of course it is. Everybody's been locked up. So, and remember this, I haven't looked at the last few minutes, but we began the year, the S&P 500 index, which is the one I always quote, right? The biggest 500 companies in the US by market cap. The S&P 500 index began the year at 3,200, right? And yesterday it closed at 3,100. Now, on March 23rd, when everything was collapsing, and then by the end of March, the smartest people around on Wall Street were saying, what? Maybe we get back to 3,200 in 5 years. We got back in 6 damn weeks.
Right.
Now, to be fair, it's amazing when you pump $5 trillion into the market, what you can do. But nonetheless, you know, everyone had this information. So I've said before, market timing, beware. Well, this is an example. I was thinking that we would get back to 2,800 by December. Even I was way, way, way too bearish.
We're 26.2 right now.
What is that?
26.2.
What's 26.2?
26,000 right now.
Oh, I don't look at that. That's what, like the Dow or something?
Yeah, the Dow. Remember, it was almost 30.
I don't.
So
I don't
20.
ever look at it. It was 30 before it collapsed?
No, it didn't hit 30. It didn't hit 30, but I'm just saying,
yeah.
they would say it was going to take a year and a half for it to get back to 30.
Yeah.
And we went from.
But this
18.
is what we've learned in the last, well, since I've been in business, this is what I've learned. Collapses come more frequently. Collapses are always more severe, every one, and collapses bounce back much faster. And I know journalists and magazines have to sell magazines, and I guess, you know, what do they say? If it bleeds, it leads on the Monday night news or the, you know, weeknight news. But you know, there's no doubt right now the market is going to be back to where it was probably in a couple of weeks. So now it's a matter of just deciding, you know, where you want to put your money from here on out.
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about crypto. That's what we kind of teased with last week. You were going to show us how to make $1 trillion with only $100 in a Coinbase account. So we're
So
eager.
I think what I said I would do is, first of all, if you have, whatever account you have, but what I would do is, the two tokens that I told you guys are the gateway drugs to crypto, Ethereum and BTC, BTC even more than Ethereum, but whatever. Those are the two you want to get if you don't have. Once you have those, then what we can do is we can talk about what crypto, people think look interesting. I gave you one last week, which was called Theta, which I was not recommending to buy. I was just pointing out that this thing had moved like 100 points up in the rankings because it had just had some really big news. And, it was up 400%. And it's hard to make 400% on in the stock market. If first of all, do people have money in Coinbase right now?
Yep. I asked them to put $100 in Coinbase.
Okay. So I would say the first part's very simple. Like, you should own BTC or
How much of
Ethereum.
that $100 should we buy BTC? How much of that?
Come on. I mean, you should own way more than $100 of BTC.
No, but I understand that. But let's just say we're going to play with $100 today. Let's break things up and look at different things. Okay. Let's go after it.
Yeah. So, I mean, we'll have to forget about that. Well, some of you probably have 1,000 or 5,000. So whatever, we'll just use the 100 as like a percent thing.
Yes.
So, I mean, normally what you would say is, remember, BTC is what percent of all crypto? 65%. So if you take the entire market capitalization of all crypto, BTC is 65%. So you could argue that if you bought less than $65 of BTC, you actually are underweighted BTC, which isn't the worst thing. If you ask me right now, which is going to go up more in a shorter period of time, BTC or Ethereum, I'm betting on Ethereum. So I might flip it if I only did two things. It would be $65 Ethereum, $35 Bitcoin.
But so let's look at other coins besides that. Okay. So let's just not do 100% between the two. Let's venture and go in another direction.
Yeah. And there's two I like in particular. One, as you know, Ken, my trader, Megan, she likes one of these. And I think she likes both. But first, before I mention those two, do we want to talk about any tokens of anywhere else? Or would you like me to just mention the two that are going to go up by 10,000% through tomorrow?
That's funny shit. But we can't
and
buy
if you listen to the end of this video and hit subscribe, you too.
Yeah, but the issue we have right away is if we're using Coinbase, we're very limited on what we can buy.
That's a very good point. But Coinbase, I believe, has these, but I have to look.
Okay.
To be fair, guys, I never have had nor ever will have a Coinbase account. So, but that shouldn't matter. I think Coinbase has a lot of these. They used to have very few what you call altcoins, but I think they've got more. So, Ken, are you on the Coinbase exchange?
I am ready to go, buddy.
All right. Well, look, I'll look too.
So right now, everyone, what we suggest is I want everyone to look at what Bitcoin is. Bitcoin is at $9,790 right now. We got excited 2 days ago when it hit 10,000 and then it dropped again. But I believe, and William, I think you're right there at the same point. Bitcoin right now is about where it should be. With the happening that happened a few weeks ago, where it's at around 10,000, it's about that. Will it go to 20? It's pushing it. So, meaning to get a 100% return on Bitcoin, that's really pushing it. Now, if we look at Ethereum at 242, can it go up to $500? It's been there. It's felt comfortable there. Does it have ability to go up to $300? Absolutely.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
when we
Yeah.
look at between Bitcoin and Ethereum, Ethereum seems to be a better hedge on where you want to go just because of where it's comfortable, meaning Ethereum is comfortable at 300.
Very.
Bitcoin is, you're throttling it massively when you go to even maybe even 14 to 15. That's a high throttle on Bitcoin.
Yep. Yep. I would say these coins have what I call like memories. They remember their glory days, like you can in high school when you used to be able to get dates. So they often come back to those high points, and I've always kept this in mind. So Ethereum, went out at 30 cents, went up and down $7, $20, $400, went up to $1,300, and then collapsed down to $85, and now is back at 250. I think it would be very easy for Ethereum to be at 500. Now, remember though, if Ethereum went to 500, it doubles, right? I told you Theta went up 4x in like a few days. So there's a lot of people out there, and you guys should know this. There are these, I call them like the token bigots. And there are these Bitcoin bigots. And if you say anything other than Bitcoin on Twitter, they fucking like attack you. There's the same crowd about Ethereum, anything but Ethereum. And it's like, man, I'm an investor and you're a technology, right? It is what it is. But just remember that. And the reality is Ethereum's at what, 20 billion market cap right now? Well, it takes a lot. For it doubles, you're adding $20 billion, right? That's a lot of buying. Bitcoin's at 150 billion. For that to double, you need another $150 billion. For a token with $100 million or 50 million market cap, well, you just add another 50, 100 million and it doubles. So it will always be the case because of just pure math that these smaller tokens will have a much easier time bouncing up. Now, the real trick, of course, is which ones are ready to pounce, which ones are ready to go up. Of course, if we all knew that, then we'd all be trillionaires. But there's some tells that we look at. So I would say, getting back to Ken, if we did nothing else, it would be, for me, I would be, like there's like 3 altcoins I like, aside from my own, and then but Bitcoin and Ethereum. And so and I'm not saying any of these are going to go up, but if you wanted to do, if we're really talking $100, then who cares? You could do $25 Ethereum, $25 Bitcoin, and then divide the remaining $50, $12.50, into 4 tokens that I'll tell you guys about. Okay.
Real quick, hey, I just want TC. I'm going to unmute you for a second because I'm watching you in the chat, and I know that you're very aggressive in a positive way. Assertive is probably better. TC. First, you go, hey, don't touch Coinbase. Go to Binance. TC, I think you're playing the higher level of trading when you start to go to platforms like that.
Yeah.
TC?
Yeah. Well, like some of the other members here, I started on Coinbase, and then you quickly find out that if you want to get into other cryptos, it's very difficult to do so. Coinbase also went offline. So if you're actually timing your buys in that, like when they had that huge jump this week, I think Coinbase shut down for an extended period of time, plus their fees. So I think if users here are comfortable using Coinbase, I was using it for a couple months, and it's like, I think there's more out there, and then you start learning there's other exchanges that US users can use that have better fees and more coins available, especially if you're looking for investments that, like you said, can do those 2-3x gains. Granted, they're more risky, but it's kind of fun to get into those, and you're really limited with Coinbase.
Yeah, I'm glad you pointed that out. What's your name? I'm sorry?
TC.
TC. Hey, TC. It is true. The exchanges Now we have fewer choices to some extent than we did before because Americans have been barred from a lot of exchanges overseas. But in the US, you've got Coinbase, Kraken, Bittrex,
Binance.
Ipsy. What's the other one?
Binance.
Oh yeah, now Binance US, right? And used to be Poloniex, but they're gone. So I only use one US exchange, right? That's Bittrex. It's okay. You know, it's whatever. It's okay. I would not personally use Coinbase for some of the reasons TC talked about. It's really high fees. They cater to, it's the AOL of the internet, right? It's like, hey, you pay a fee, da da da. It's easy to get on, but you're on a little while and you're like, I'm out of here. So I would, but since it's so easy to use, I think it's the easiest of all. Great to start there.
Abra's pretty good too. Abra, Bill Barheit. Abra is a good platform.
Yeah. Now, I hadn't considered them an exchange, but maybe now they're like an exchange, right? Do they have a lot of tokens, Ken?
Edwin, how are they looking on the token side? I haven't touched them in a while. Edwin, do they have
Yeah, they have a decent amount. They don't have tons, but I like them for the simplicity. They're comparable to, you know, a Coinbase, real easy to use. So they had Ripple. They were one of the first ones to get Ripple. So that's what people liked about them as well.
Right. Yeah, Ripple is an absolute puzzle to me. It's such a puzzle. It's Ripple, but guys, it's basically like, it's like a private version of a blockchain. You know, they minted 100 billion tokens initially. They sold 9 billion. So they sold 9 billion. They had 91 billion tokens in their coffers. And they said, don't worry about us flooding the market with those 91 billion, you know, trust us. I don't know. Having said that, if you invested at the beginning of Ripple, you'd probably be up 1,000 times. So there you go. But it's more of a centralized blockchain. So, Ken.
By the way, William, I just want to make sure people understand how you look at things. You are not going, oh, I heard a story, maybe this is interesting, I'll go after it. You are actually more of a purist where you go, where's the value in this? How does this benefit or help or have a real purpose? And then you get excited about it. It's not on a tip.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's even in an hour, you couldn't give all the info about this, but I will say this to you guys. Some of this you'll say, well, thanks for nothing, because I'll tell you something that is just like one of those mysteries that I say, you know, you would think this, but it actually works differently. And I don't know why. One of those things, I won't talk about that part yet, but first and foremost to what Ken said. Yeah. You know, even though I don't like CoinMarketCap much, just because their information's always wrong and blah, blah, blah. It's one of those annoying things. CoinMarketCap.com is, for those of you who don't know it, is like the main place you go to figure out like what is going on with your token.
It's a dashboard.
What's that?
It's a dashboard.
Yeah, it's a dashboard. And it recently got purchased by Binance, which I can't stand. So people who trade crypto, who do they fear? They fear the exchanges. Because if an exchange doesn't like you and it bans you or whatever, you can't trade. Who do the exchanges fear? So the exchanges fear only one group, and it's not the government. It's CoinMarketCap. They really do fear CoinMarketCap. And here's why. If CoinMarketCap says you don't exist, you disappear from the world as an exchange. So a bunch of exchanges for many years, including even now, lie about their volume. So they make it up and they say, look at all these people trading on our exchange. And that drives people to go to that exchange. But when you try to buy something, there's actually no one on the other side of the trade because they lied about it. They just tried to get you to come there. And so CoinMarketCap has started to discipline those exchanges by saying, we're not going to show you. It scares the hell out of exchanges. CoinMarketCap also ranks exchanges by various factors. So when one of the biggest exchanges in the world, Binance, decides to buy CoinMarketCap, it makes me kind of wonder if now Binance is always going to show up as the #1 exchange in every category.
Can you quickly tell them about the issue you had with Binance when it came to Wax and what you saw
Yeah, it's no
happen to
mystery.
you?
But yeah, so Binance, along with many other exchanges, because remember, there used to be like 1 or 2 exchanges, and there were 5, and then there were, well, guys, there are more exchanges in the world than there are tokens in the world. Think about that. So these exchanges, of which there's maybe 10,000, they're all vying for customers. So they were trying to figure out ways to make money if they didn't have a lot of volume. So what they started to do is they would go to the tokens themselves and say, we'll show you, we'll allow people to buy and sell your token if you pay us a payment. And we weren't going to do that. We're like, well, look, it's not our job to be putting this thing on an exchange. But some of these guys wanted millions of US dollars to list your token. Now, when you add the fact that a lot of these exchanges falsify their trading data, it's like, oh, look we do $1 billion a day. Wouldn't you like your token to be traded on that? Well, yeah, but it might only be 1 million a day. And, different reports have been done on Bitcoin, by the way. I do think Bitcoin volume is very good. Whatever the real volume is, if you want to sell a Bitcoin or 100 Bitcoin or 1,000 Bitcoin, you can do it instantly. But a year ago, a firm did a deep dive and said 95% of all transactions on exchanges of Bitcoin are fake. That's pretty crazy.
Edwin, you got a question, Edwin? Go for it.
Yeah, just a quick question, William. Can you talk a little bit about Wax? I know, you're very humble and you don't like pushing your own project, but I think it's going to do very, very well. It is up today about more than 40%, and you guys are providing something very useful. I think you will help drive mass adoption. So talk a little bit about that and tell us how we can buy some Wax, because I think we
and
all
you are
want to
right.
support you anyway.
Thank you, Edwin. The reason I don't talk about it is because I would never want somebody to say this guy's a shill for this token he did. So that's the reason I'm like, let somebody else talk about it. But since I'm not shilling, I'm just educating, I'm happy to do it. So Wax we had one goal when we did Wax. I wanted to make it super easy for people who were trading video game virtual items to trade video game virtual items, and the equivalent of those, they're called NFTs, non-fungible tokens, in the tokenized world. I wanted them to be able to trade those on a blockchain that actually freaking worked. It's crazy, guys, but most of these blockchains don't work. And what I mean by that is it takes hours for the transaction to go through. What consumer is going to wait around for hours? Or it takes a lot of money. You have a 50-cent or a $1 item and it costs you $3 to actually do a trade. I mean, that's like a non-starter. So I wanted to build a blockchain that went super fast, free, no transaction fees, super fast, and had a wallet that any normal person could use. Most of these crypto wallets, it's like you got to really, struggle to figure them out. And so I was like, yeah, that can't work either. It's got to be as hard to use as an app, which means not hard. So, we have a wallet, we have a blockchain that's super fast and free. And then we have a whole group of people who run it, because all we did was design it. We don't run it. And so we had to have an economic model that would cause, in Bitcoin, they're called miners. In non-Bitcoin blockchains, they're called block producers, but they do the same thing. They validate transactions and they put them on the blockchain. So we needed to get these cats to come together and to be willing to run our blockchain. And you don't have one group, you have hundreds. And they're only going to do that if they can make a buck. And so we built an economic model where the blockchain produces like whatever, couple of a percent of additional tokens every year that think of them as data centers, trade. So I mentioned this a few weeks ago. We had Topps, the baseball card, NBA, NHL, whatever, all the different cards that you can use in sports, trading cards. We went to them and we said, let's digitize some of this stuff and put it on a blockchain. We did that 2 weeks ago, 110,000 cards, and they sold out in 28 hours. Pretty cool. So we'll do another one soon with them. And I feel like there is no comparable blockchain to what Wax is, because Wax is purpose built for one thing: trading virtual items. And like when we talk about Ethereum, which I love and have great respect for, here's how I think about Ethereum. Ethereum is what you trade when you've got like a lot of money in the thing, which is why decentralized finance people, so guys who put loans on the blockchain, guys who want to tokenize gold or stocks, they're going to use Ethereum. Ethereum is slower and it's more expensive to use, but it is more secure. I think they have 16,000 independent data centers that are like miners. 16,000, and you would need more than 51% of them to collude to steal your shit. So you'd need 8,000 independent people who don't even know each other to all agree to steal it, which isn't going to happen. So I like Ethereum when you really, really, really are scared, right? Now, Bitcoin, remember, and this is why I get annoyed with what we call Bitcoin maximalists, the guys who are like, any other token is shit. Bitcoin doesn't do anything, guys. It does not do shit. It is good for one reason. It is the most secure digital asset on Earth. It is probably never going to get hacked. Remember, the software is simple and it's distributed and anybody can look at the code. And as a result, the smartest people in the world, anytime they see a vulnerability, they say, hey, patch this. So this thing is ironclad. But, it doesn't have a smart contract. And I should mention this. Anytime I look at a blockchain, I always look, does it have a smart contract feature? The majority of them do not. So Bitcoin doesn't have a smart contract. Now, I say that, and by the way, if you were to talk to one of these weirdo Bitcoin maximalists, here's what they're going to say to you. It does too. There's a way to put a smart contract on Bitcoin, just like there's a way to, supercharge a Pinto to win Formula One. I mean, it's conceivable, but you would never want to do it that way. So Bitcoin, great because you can store your shit in Bitcoin, keep it private, no one ever knows, store value. Ethereum, really good because you can program it to do stuff. We can do a bet together, and the smart contract will look at the result of the bet and pay people out. Very secure, but it's slow and it's expensive. And then you get into these specialized chains, of which I'll start to talk to a few of them. I've mentioned Wax. How
do we buy Wax, William?
So Wax is only traded in the US on Bittrex, which is, like an average exchange. I wish it was on more exchanges, but that is the way it is. If you're Korean, it's great. You're on like 4 exchanges. But if you're in the US, it's one exchange, and that's Bittrex. It's a decent exchange. So that's that. And here's something else. I haven't looked recently, but we built Wax to be used, right? And there's this weird thing. Remember I said I'm going to tell you guys some stuff and it's like, maybe it won't be helpful, but I just want to say it anyway. You would kind of think that if somebody if a bunch of people start using the blockchain and it gets really popular, the token price should go up. That's not how it works. It's like sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't work. A lot of these tokens are super manipulated. So even if the news is great, you're like, why isn't it going up? I don't know. I just don't know. But that's the nature of this weird thing. So when we did Wax, I was like, that's really bullshit. I would like usage to drive the price, right? So we did some design elements in it where we hope that would happen. But it's not, and it seems to happen. When we have positive news, usually it does go up. Here's something, if you guys got really into this, you can look at like the top, let's say 50 blockchains. And if you take away like Ethereum and Bitcoin, some of these blockchains have like 5,000 people using them, 10,000 people, 50,000 using them. And they're like a number 10 ranked blockchain. Wax has 500,000 people using it. And it's like number 70. I don't really know why, I'm like, why is that? It could be, not good marketing or whatever, right? I might not be doing what I'm supposed to do, but eventually I do think when a chain gets really understood enough, it pops. So let me give you, there's 4 chains that I like besides my own. So you guys familiar with BAT? That's an easy one. Basic Attention Token?
No, tell us.
BAT. Okay. So are you guys familiar with the Brave browser?
Yes.
Some of you, right? I really like the Brave browser. So the guys who built the Brave browser created a blockchain and a token. And remember why they built the Brave browser? So that people don't snoop on you, right? And you don't do all the creepy shit that Google does. So yeah, your shit can still be traced and all that, but you don't have like a Google who's hiding, and collecting all your activity. So it's a good reason to use just for that. They have a token. You can buy their token, BAT. You can also earn the token by using the browser. And some of you who are as old as me remember back in the day during the internet bubble 1.0, where if you like used a certain website, you would like get paid for the ads they run. I forget the name of these companies, Ken, but you might remember some of them. Raised lots of venture money. The model didn't really work.
I'm not as old as you. I don't know that part of the internet.
Yeah, it didn't work then, but it seems to be working pretty well, Basic Attention Token. So I like Basic Attention Token because the guys are serious behind it. It's a real project, the Brave browser, and it's sort of like, it's like the culture of blockchain and the culture of the guys who built Brave browser are sort of similar. It's like sort of anti-establishment types. So I think that token will do well. Now, by the way, it's already gone up a lot. So just because it's doing well doesn't mean it's going to continue to go up. But that's a good one that I like because I understand it. The next one is Chainlink. Okay, Chainlink. I believe the token name is LINK. Link. And Megan likes this one a lot. Okay, so Chainlink does something. And what it does is kind of technical, but I'll tell you anyway, because it's great. They build slinkies, and they're the biggest distributor of slinkies in the world. No, just kidding. But what they really do is...
How you know how Jimmy Fallon feels right now talking to the camera at night and every joke of his fails? But go ahead.
Yeah, so Chainlink is an oracle. And you guys have all, well, you know the word oracle, right? So in blockchain world, when somebody says it's an oracle, I'll tell you what that means. It means it is an AI that can understand what's happening off the blockchain. and it brings back real world information to the blockchain, because the blockchain only lives in itself, right? The blockchain doesn't know about anything going on. It doesn't know anything about the internet or whatever. It's just a blockchain. So if you need information, and I'm going to give you an example, which will be perfectly freaking clear. If you need information off blockchain, then you could do it if you're smart. And we did it with Wax. We built our own oracles. And these guys said every blockchain is going to need oracles. So why don't we build the best oracle and everybody will just use ours? And theirs is good. So a perfect example is this. Sports comes back. You know, Lakers are playing Boston. We decide to do a bet. Whatever that bet is, Lakers are going to win by 5, blah, blah, blah. Okay, but the blockchain doesn't understand scores and all that. So what you would do is there would be a smart contract that would have a chain link oracle in it that would go out to Google or whatever, some source that you and I agreed was the official source, maybe ESPN.com, whatever it is, and it will grab the final score and it will feed that into the smart contract, and it'll, you know, the smart contract will say, okay, that was the result. Okay, you know, William, you win or you lose. So oracles simply gather information off blockchain. Chainlink has a deal with Google. I don't think it's exclusive, and I think people greatly overvalue that deal. But nonetheless, people got all excited. So it's like in their Chrome browser, and anybody building a blockchain smart contract now will just use Chainlink's oracle to gather information, whatever it is. Any information on the internet, it'll grab. And yeah, as you can see, that's kind of a cool feature, right? Since we're all going to need oracles, we might as well just have one group that builds them the best. And eventually, Chainlink is going to charge a lot for this oracle service, which will either drive new competitors to build or will cause them to make a lot of money. They're going to take a % of that money at some point, I assume, and buy their token to drive the price up. So Chainlink has also gone up a lot. It's not like an undiscovered token, but it's one I like. The next one I like is the Binance token, okay? Also a token that's gone way up, right? So whatever, but I'll tell you why I like it. Binance introduced the second generation of tokens. The first generation of tokens didn't give you a dividend and gave you no claim to any assets. They were just a token that was used to do an activity. And the theory is, if people want to do that activity a lot, let's say run smart contracts on Ethereum, they'll have to buy a lot of Ethereum, which will increase the demand for Ethereum and drive the price up for Ethereum. So logical, but it's sort of like a loose connection, right? It's like activity being done on the blockchain somehow benefits the token buyers. So when Binance, the exchange, created the Binance token, what they said was, we're going to take 20% of the profits from our exchange each month, I think, and we'll go out with 20% of our profits and buy Binance tokens and then burn them. Burning them means, you know, destroying them. So it's kind of like a stock buyback. And you know what happens when you do a stock buyback? You shrink the amount of stock outstanding, and therefore the price per share goes up because there's fewer shares benefiting from the profit pool. This is what Binance is doing. It's taking its tokens and it's shrinking the amount of them. And that means, you know, every time it shrinks the amount of tokens it has, the next time it does a profit distribution, you get a bigger amount because it's being, you know, the pool's being sliced up in fewer slices. So Binance token went from like, whatever, top 100 to like top 10 because of this innovation. I call these exchange issued tokens, which has been the best performing sector in 2019. Tokens issued by exchanges, because they all copied the Binance model, where they would take a portion of their profits. Now, I don't want to get too technical, but this is important you guys know this. It's a little bullshit in a way, and I'll tell you why. So you've got this guy in China, the guy who created the Binance exchange, and he's telling you how much money he made that month. This ain't no audit, right? He's not like inviting you into his books. He's saying, oh, I made this much. Maybe, or maybe he didn't, or maybe he made 5 times more. He doesn't say. But he says, you can trust me, you know, Chinese accounting, and I'll go out and buy these tokens. Now, the reason I still like it, though, is at least he's giving you a piece of something, even if he's lying about how much he actually is making, all right? There's going to be a 3rd generation of utility tokens that actually give a dividend to you, like the Binance token, but they're going to have their accounting records on the blockchain.
Wow.
So there will be no doubt as to the fact it's real. Now, by the way, most of the companies in the world play games with their accounting. If all companies in the world had to show it, I guarantee you things would look differently. So this is kind of cool that in the 3rd generation of crypto tokens, we're going to be more transparent than all the SEC regulated, CFTC regulated, you know, public accounting firm regulated companies, because you can't lie if it's on a blockchain. If you have a browser and an internet connection, you can see what's going on. So I'm excited about those, though those don't exist yet, but they're coming. So that's Binance token, right? I also have another reason why I like Binance token. And this is because the guy who runs the Binance exchange, he goes by the nickname CZ. He's got a big freaking ego. And I feel like if his token goes down in price, he's going to buy it up in the open market to go back up. Now, that's just a little personality view I have, but I bet you that happens. Okay, so I told you about BAT, right? And then Link, and then Binance, right? So those. And then there's another token, and I'm giving you, all of these are different flavors, right? This last token that I think is cool, not without its problems, is called MakerDAO, M-A-K-E-R, next word DAO, D-A-O.
Is this a distributed autonomous organism?
They're not perfect, but they're getting there. A DAO is a distributed autonomous organization. They're getting close to that. But anyway, MakerDAO did this. So you guys might know Brock and me and another guy created Tether, which is we created a derivative of the US dollar. By the way, trivia, Tether is the most traded token on earth, more than Bitcoin. Last year was $4 trillion US dollars of trading. So what we did is we took a bunch of money that we had and we put it in a bank account, and then we issued tokens that were backed by the bank account. Remember what I told you though, like the blockchain doesn't know anything about what's going off blockchain. So in a way, it's kind of like, it's not perfect, right? Because you have to take our word that it's now 9 billion, that there's $9 billion sitting in a bank account. So for every dollar we deposit in the bank account, we issue a $1 Tether token. But again, you got to take our word for it that there's $9 billion in the bank, right? If I really wanted to confuse you, I could tell you why there really doesn't need to be any money in a bank, but I don't want to go there. But anyway, there's $9 billion in a bank account somewhere, and there's 9 billion Tether tokens. So MakerDAO came along, and this is what they said. You know, it's kind of bullshit that you've got this Tether token, which theoretically I can go to some bank somewhere and I can redeem it for $1, but who knows? Wouldn't it be cool if you had this MakerDAO token and the dollar that it is backed by is on the blockchain and you can see it? So that's what they've done. Now, you obviously can't put $1 on a blockchain because the dollar is not digital. So they did it in this unbelievably convoluted way. And I'm not going to go into it really deep, but I'll just give you the essence of it. They ask people to deposit. Let's say you want to buy or you want to have 100 of these, they call them stable coins. A stable coin is a coin that's equal to a US dollar. So you want $100 of stable coin. You don't like Tether because the cash is held in the bank account and we don't tell you where it is. So here's how it works. Somebody wants $100 of stable coins of MakerDAO. MakerDAO asks somebody to go deposit $100 of Ethereum into their smart contract. And then they go and issue you $100 of these things called DAI, which is their equivalent of Tether. Now, it's a little more complicated than that, because you would say, well, what if that $100 of Ethereum you just deposited goes down in value and now it's only $90? Well, they thought of that, obviously. So they don't allow you to do that exactly. They want you to put $200 worth of Ethereum. So there's cushion for every $100 of token they issue. And the guy who deposits his Ethereum in order to back this DAI token, he gets an interest rate. So he has an incentive to put it in there, and then somebody borrows it via these DAI tokens, and the DAI tokens are always traded as $1 because they're backed by more than $1, right? Now, if the guy who's done the $100 of Ethereum or $200 wants to get his Ethereum out, he can just go through this little hocus pocus stuff and he replaces it. Somebody else comes along and does it. And there's a big demand for people to put their Ethereum to work and to get an interest rate on it. So in fact, I can tell you how big of a demand there is. When they started this, to get people to do it, they needed to charge 10%. So people are like, I'll put my money, my Ethereum in this thing, but I need 10%. Now it's like 2%. So that shows there's a lot of people willing to deposit it. And that's MakerDAO. So MakerDAO is this, stable coin generating blockchain that I think has a real purpose.
Can I ask you one more, William?
What?
We're running late on time. I just want to make sure. So these are all really good ones that move. I've noticed that they do move up, which is great.
And down sometimes.
Yeah. But the one that I bought, and many of us bought, was CATS, C-A-T-S. It's not a coin, it's a stock.
Yes.
And that thing is like a...
Cats ain't no dog.
No, it's kind of like a rust bucket. It doesn't move at all. And I'm wondering, what's that, Taryn? Taryn, you want to say anything about CATS?
You have
CATS is a great stock.
2/3 days to buy it. Enough said.
All right.
So Taryn, can you tell us though, because I don't really understand US dollars.
All right, I love how you said Binance is up a lot. The fucking thing was at 40 something and look.
At one point, right? I mean, it goes up and down. This thing was nothing like 2 years ago, right? But Taryn, what's the price of CAT stock?
$17.
I was going to buy it at 30. I was going to buy it at 30, and I said, no, I'm going to hold off. I'm still waiting to buy it.
It's at $17 CATS right now, $17.93.
CATS, that's great. Yeah.
Yeah, it was at 32 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, exactly. So anyone that bought it 2 weeks ago when you told us to, we're screwed.
Oh,
I didn't tell you to buy it at 32.
What's the price of
I didn't tell you to buy it 2 weeks ago. I told you to buy BioV, and it went from 4 to 7. And watch what happens to BioV.
Well, all right. So Ken, what's the price of Binance token right now?
Oh, I don't know.
17-ish.
17-ish. What's the price of CATS? About 17?
17.
18.
So it'd be kind of fun to buy both and see, and Taryn.
I'll bet anything you want on CATS. I say CATS is $50 within the next year, and it's $100 within the next 18 months.
Okay. But Taryn, that doesn't mean anything. I only understand it in terms of how many Bitcoin is it going to be worth?
So, hey.
Well, if you don't buy it in Bitcoin, you'll be better off.
All right. So, guys, before we...
So that's that.
Any questions for William before we let Taryn steal him? Any questions for Taryn? Pop it in or raise your hand. and I can unmute you, or you just put it inside the chat.
And I would like to say this though, Ken, before we go. The way I hear about tokens is through things like this. Somebody just mentions to me, the way I heard from BAT token was just some guy on a call said, oh, I'm going to buy this thing. And I'm like, what is that? Word of mouth is how it's done. You don't have like stock analysts, right? So if you hear of a token, and by the way, make sure you've done some research because there are a lot of scams. But if it seems like a real team and it's a real token, whatever, mention it in our get-togethers so we can all know about it.
I got this one called BitConnect. Have you heard of it?
It's going to come back.
BitConnect. How about derivatives? When can we talk about crypto derivatives?
Okay. I love crypto derivatives, guys. I have to think about how to talk about them though. And I'm going to tell you why, because the powers that be in this country don't think we should be allowed to buy them. So it's hard to buy them on the exchanges where they're traded. And if somebody has a way to do it, there's one exchange that's really nascent that maybe I'll talk to you guys about if you're gamblers. All right.
How do we move money into that account? Because we can't use.
I might know a guy who knows how to do it. So, but these are options that last for 5 minutes, which is really fun. I mean, that's kind of close to gambling. But regular options, I will talk about more maybe next time we do this, Ken, because you want to know where crypto is going. You can look at the options market.
Okay, last thing. Tell us about this guy from Canada that has $100+ million, but does not have a bank account.
Oh, well, I can tell you there are many people like this. But
someone you know quite well.
You do not need, I will tell you this, because this gives you a sense of where crypto's going, guys. I know many people, one guy I know from Canada who, I mean, this guy is a world traveler. He doesn't live in a shoebox. He stays at nice hotels. He does whatever, private plane, And this is no shit. He does not have and has not had a bank account for 3 years. Everything he does with crypto. And if somebody won't take crypto, he just doesn't frequent them. But he tells me he's not found a country that he can't enjoy himself in living exclusively with crypto.
Now he does go to ATMs.
Yes. So he goes to crypto ATMs. That's right. And empties them. Right. He does
carry a lot of cash with him.
Yeah, so he has cash. He leaves cash with friends. They must be good friends. So he does have cash. But there's a lot more people that like this. Can you remember about 20 years ago, some like goofy tech reporter said he was going to try to live for a month with the internet? Like he was going to order food and this and that. Obviously, there wasn't Grubhub. And he lasted like 3 days and he was starving and he had to stop. I don't know if you remember this guy, but there was someone who tried this like 5 years ago with crypto. They're like, I'm going to try to literally only live with crypto. And of course, after 3 days, they were like, well, no one takes it. But these days, you could literally live just with crypto. And when you think about that, guys, there's a lot of advantages to having no financial footprint anywhere.
And he's
Canadian, for those of you,
and he's Canadian, which kind of changes the whole tax structure too, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, let me just add one more point because I can never stop attacking this particular point. So there's 2 countries in the world that tax you on your worldwide income, which I think is unfair, unjust, morally wrong. Why? If you have a business in Singapore and you get taxed at 30% in Singapore, and then you bring that money back to the US and then they tax you as though you earned it in the US, you're getting double taxed. People say, oh yeah, but you can have credits. The credits don't offset it. So it's kind of bullshit. Most countries in the world, you're only taxed if you make money in that country. They assume you were taxed in the other country. So that's true of Canadians. When people tell you Canadians have really high tax rates, bullshit. A Canadian can have a 0 tax rate if he makes money in the US or makes money somewhere else. So yeah, it's a very nice thing of virtually all other countries.
There's only 2 countries, the United States and the powerful nation of
Eritrea.
yes.
Yeah. So it's always good that we follow examples like that. So yeah, if there's one thing I would love to change, it's this US, it's a typical US, right? Bullying. Wherever you make money, you've got to pay taxes, you know, even if you don't live in that country, you know. By the way, there's examples of I know in one case, a Filipino who was born in the US, his parents gave him a social security number. He left when he was 1 year old. He then spent his whole life in the Philippines, and the IRS went after him because he wasn't filing US tax returns.
There you go.
So, you know, whatever. So crypto can change a lot of that.
William, thank you so much. Next week, we'll dive a lot deeper into other things. Let's unmute your microphones, guys. And let's all thank William Quigley for just being there for us. Come on, unmute yourself.
Thanks, William. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks, William.
Bye.